Why was my experience watching Here Lies Love so different the third time? How much have my opinions about the show changed because of that?
I comment on how my perception of the show Here Lies Love on Broadway changed after watching it on October 13th. I also talk about the public relations materials from Here Lies Love and one of its stars, Melody Butiu.
The first factor that changed my experience watching Here Lies Love this time was the seat. Before, I watched the show from the dance floor. It was an amazing experience that I reviewed in my other video about Here Lies Love. But, this time, I watched the show from the mezzanine. And the experience is not the same.
There are some advantages to the mezzanine. I was better able to see everything and notice how the different parts of the show are related to each other. For example, I was able to follow the choreography and the movements in a way that I couldn't before. The most important moment to me is when Estrella sees Imelda from the gate. I couldn't see both Estrella and Imelda at the same time before because they were in different parts of the theater, and I was between them on the dance floor. Now I could see what Imelda was doing while Estrella waved at her. The scene was still very impactful but in a different way. I could also see the information displayed on the screens close to the mezzanine, allowing me to have more information about the story and follow the narrative differently. The new information is not critical to the experience, but it allows us to understand better what is happening.
However, there are also disadvantages. The mezzanine is distant from the action. The DJ tries to get people involved, but it can never be the same. I couldn't see many details from the show very well anymore. For example, I liked it when the bird showed up during the show before. I thought it was very nice and entertaining. But from the mezzanine, the bird was just a small object I could barely see. The main difference is the energy. On the dance floor, I was right in the middle of the action with the actors close or interacting with them. On the dance floor, I could feel the place shaking as people danced and jumped. But from the mezzanine, I could observe the action but not be part of it. The show became a passive experience from the mezzanine. The energy level was also much lower from the mezzanine.
So, the mezzanine was better to understand and observe what was happening, but it was worse as an experience. Much of the experience that makes Here Lies Love a unique show on Broadway is lost from the mezzanine. Some parts of the show that were dramatic to me become boring from the distance. Another difference was that Vina Morales replaced Lea Salonga in Here Lies Love. Vina Morales is a great singer, I have no doubt about that. But she is not Lea Salonga, as a singer or a performance, especially on Broadway.
I think the scene with Vina is very different. Vina's interpretation of the song seems to communicate more about the character's sorrow at the moment. When Lea Salonga sang, it felt like she was angry. She was rallying people to join the revolution, fight against the dictatorship, and make democracy happen. So, Vina Morales and Lea Salonga interpreted the song in different ways. Both are good, but Lee's performance is better, and it was better connected to what happened afterward in the show.
Again, there was no stage dooring for Here Lies Love. I could stage door at almost every show I went before on Broadway. Even for a big show like Hamilton and Under the Rain, I could still stage door. But I watched Here Lies Love 3 times, and I was able to stage door only once. Without the stage door, the show loses a lot of its competitive advantage. We still feel like Estrella, watching things from afar. After watching the show from the mezzanine, the feeling of being distant from the show became even stronger. That was unfortunate for a show like Here Lies Love, which could be really an example of engagement.
I obtained materials to teach my classes about public relations from the show and Melody Butiu. The person doing PR for Melody Butiu was particularly great. I wish more people in PR were like her. The PR material I received about Melody Butiu was created by Icon Public Relations, although I didn't receive the material directly from Icon. Icon seems to specialize in doing PR for women in entertainment, is based in Los Angeles, but it has other offices in places like New York. The PR material about Melody Butiu provides a lot of information about her, and about the work she has done. It also tells a lot about the impact Melody had on the industry and representation of women and Filipinos. After the students analyzed the PR material about Melody Butiu, the main conclusion was that the material is good, but it could be more engaging. For example, students seemed to be much more interested in knowing about her work while browsing the internet about her than from the PR material.
The PR material for Here Lies Love was quite different, being an online package that we could download. The package has several folders with a total of more than 3 gigabytes. That includes many of the pictures we saw in articles about the show before. But it also included several details about the members of the show, like bios and headshots. It also included many photos I had not seen before, like photos about the opening night. The folder contains a lot of information and many photos that can be used to promote the show and its stars. I really enjoyed the material sent to me by Here Lies Love. After discussing the material with my student, one aspect that could be improved is the organization of the folder. I think it's not a problem for those who really know more about the show and those involved. But the students were lost in the process, as they are not familiar with the show, and it was hard to identify what they should check first. The process was disorganized, with people clicking from folder to try to understand the material better since it doesn't have a clear organization. Thanks to those doing PR for Melody Butiu and Here Lies Love. I know from experience that not many PRs reply to my emails, especially as someone who is doing this for educational purposes instead of commercial purposes. The materials I received are great examples of PR that made the experience much more interesting and helpful for me and my students.